When a father vanishes without a word and an ex-wife hides behind silence, one shocking moment brings them back together. So my dad's been missing for over 2 years. We thought he will never come back. Or at least, that's what I thought until last weekend. No note, no texts, no calls. One day he was just gone. His phone pinged near the state line and then nothing. It wasn't like him. He was selfish, sure. Egotistical, lazy, kind of a big talker who couldn't back anything up, but disappearing without a word? That wasn't his MO. We filed a missing persons report, but the case went cold fast. Cops found his car abandoned at a roadside rest stop near the border. No signs of foul play, no surveillance footage. He just vanished. And because he didn't have much in the way of assets, nobody pushed hard to investigate. Honestly, I thought he might have died, or offed himself, or maybe skipped town over gambling debts. He'd done shady stuff before. That was 2 years ago. I was married at the time to my ex-wife, Jessica. I'll spare you the details of our marriage's slow-motion implosion for now. Just know we split up about a year after my dad vanished. We didn't have kids, so the divorce was messy but fast. She got the apartment, I got the truck, and a bunch of resentment. Last I heard, she was still in town. We don't talk. Now fast forward to last weekend. I was driving to a hardware store just outside of town when I spotted this guy pumping gas at a sketchy little station off the highway. He was wearing a baseball cap and baggy clothes, but I swear to God, something about his posture made my stomach drop. The way he scratched the back of his neck, the way he tilted his head when he talked to the cashier. I hadn't seen my dad in 2 years, but that was him. I knew it. I pulled around to the other side of the lot to get a better look. Sure enough, when he stepped into the sunlight, I saw the profile I'd seen my entire life. Rick's unmistakable hook nose, his patchy beard, the same pair of aviator sunglasses he used to leave on the dashboard of his old van. He was laughing, like not a care in the world. I sat frozen in my car, watching him as he walked out of the gas station with 2 coffees in a cardboard tray. He got into the passenger seat of a blue SUV. I couldn't see the driver until she leaned over to kiss him. It was Jessica. I swear I almost threw up in the parking lot. At first, I thought maybe I was hallucinating, like my brain just filled in the blanks with the worst possible scenario. But no, it was her. My ex-wife. She had the same tattoo on her shoulder, same black hair pulled into a high bun. She looked happy. I followed them. Don't judge me, I had to know where they were going. And honestly, I wasn't thinking straight. They drove about 20 minutes to a small rental house just outside of town. Not even a part of town we ever used to go to. I parked down the street and waited. They went inside, still laughing. She kissed his cheek as they walked through the front door. The whole thing felt surreal, like I'd stepped into someone else's life. I drove straight to my buddy Matt's house. He's the only person I trust with this kind of thing. I told him everything. He said what any sane person would. You need proof. So the next morning, we went back. We waited outside the house for 3 hours. Nothing. Then around 10:30 a.m., my ex-wife came outside in leggings and a hoodie, walking a dog. A dog. They have a dog together. Matt took a bunch of photos from the passenger seat. Then around noon, the front door opened again. Out came my dad, carrying groceries. Groceries. Like he was on his way home from a totally normal errand. Like he hadn't disappeared from his family, cost my mom years of stress, left his friends thinking he might be dead. Rick freaking smiled at Jessica as she came back up the walkway. He kissed her forehead. I watched it happen. Matt got it all on camera. I spent the whole drive home in silence, just trying to make sense of anything. The timelines, the lies, my ex-wife moving on from me with my missing dad. That night, I called my mom. She didn't pick up. She hasn't been doing well lately. After the divorce and dad disappearing, she moved in with her sister upstate. I've been helping her financially, but emotionally she kind of shut down. I didn't want to dump this on her without knowing more. So instead, I went back to the house the next day. This time alone. They weren't home, so I walked around the back. Don't ask me why. I wasn't thinking, and there was this window I could see into the kitchen. On the fridge were magnets, kid magnets, drawings, a photo. It was of Jessica and my dad at the Grand Canyon, together, matching hoodies, smiling. The photo was dated 10 months ago. I stood there staring at it until I heard a dog bark behind me and realized someone inside the house had just walked into the kitchen. I ran, literally ran back to my truck like I was 15 again, sneaking out past curfew. I haven't gone back since. I haven't confronted either of them yet, but I'm going to. I have to. The thing is, there are some gaps in the story that still don't make sense. For one, Jessica and I were still together when my dad went missing. He disappeared in March. She and I didn't separate until the following February. So, did she find him after we split? Or was something already going on before that? There were things back then, moments that didn't seem like much. Jessica talking to someone on the phone and hanging up too quickly. Coming home with extra groceries and saying she'd gotten a good deal. Saying my dad always understood her better. I brushed it off. I never suspected anything this insane. And here's the other weird part. Rick hated Jessica. At least, that's what he said. He told me once, son, you better not let that one ruin you. She's a taker. He said that to me on my wedding day. So either he changed his mind or he was lying the whole time. Either way, I've got questions. And I want answers. And this isn't over. After I saw the photo on the fridge and ran off, I barely slept. I had about 3 hours of broken sleep before I gave up and started pacing the living room. I kept replaying every interaction I could remember between Jessica and my dad from the past. And then something hit me. A conversation, one I'd forgotten about until that night. It happened about a year before my dad disappeared. Jessica and I had just come back from a family dinner. It was awkward, My dad had made one of his usual tone-deaf jokes about how marriage is a slow death with snacks. I was annoyed. Jessica was quiet. When we got home, I vented, said I was tired of his snide remarks. She defended him, said, "You know, your dad's not all bad. He just needs someone who listens to him." I said, "You sound like you like him." She didn't respond. I thought she was just being nice, or maybe just trying to keep peace, but now it reads differently. Like she did like him. Too much. That memory stuck with me all night. By morning, I'd made up my mind. I wasn't going to confront them yet, but I needed more info. I wanted to find out when it started. Who knew how deep this thing really went? So I called Matt again. Matt's my best friend. We've known each other since middle school. The kind of guy who once faked appendicitis just to get out of a wedding and help me move. Loyal to the bone. I told him I needed help. He came over an hour later with coffee and that "this is bad but let's do it" look on his face. "Let's start with social media," he said. "Backtrack from now to when your dad disappeared. Anything we can find." We went through Jessica's Facebook. Nothing unusual recently. Just dog pics, selfies, some sunset photos. Normal stuff. But when we scrolled way back, about 14 months ago, there was a weird post. It was a photo of her sitting on a patio with someone just out of frame. She captioned it, "New views, new life." Nothing crazy. But the thing that caught me was the reflection in the sliding glass door behind her. You could see a shape. A man in a tank top holding a coffee mug with a chip corner. My dad had a mug like that. I bought it for him on Father's Day in 2016. It said "Grill Sergeant." Dumb joke. He loved it. I zoomed in. Same mug. I said nothing for a full minute. Then I just said, "It's him. He's in the picture." Matt just nodded. They've been together for at least a year. I didn't even know what I was looking for anymore. Validation? Evidence for some kind of court case? Emotional closure? At that point, it was like poking at a wound to see how deep it really went. Then Matt found something I missed. Jessica's Venmo history. She had transactions labeled groceries, utilities, and one labeled Ars Meds. Rick, my dad's name. I know that doesn't prove anything, but when someone supposedly disappeared off the grid 2 years ago and your ex-wife is sending money tagged Ars Meds on Venmo less than 6 months after you divorce her, it tells you all you need to know. She never lost contact with him. She never stopped being in contact with him. That's when I lost it. I drove to my mom's. She finally answered the door after I called her 4 times in a row. I think the tone in my voice must have scared her. She looked surprised to see me standing there with bags under my eyes and a folder of printed screenshots. We sat in her kitchen. I laid it all out, every detail. The gas station, the house, the photo, the mug, the Venmo. She didn't say a word for a full minute, just stared at the table. Then she said, "I knew he wasn't dead. I knew it. That coward." It turns out, get this, my dad had disappeared before. Not in the same dramatic fashion, but apparently back in the 90s, he'd left for 4 days without telling anyone. My mom said he came back claiming he'd had a mental break and needed air. She believed him. He said he'd gone camping. No gear, no receipts, nothing. She never questioned it because he seemed shaken. Now she thinks he probably went to see someone else, and not for the first time. I asked her if she thought he was capable of sleeping with Jessica. She laughed. "No, he's not capable. He's a pro." Apparently, my dad had a thing for younger women, a pattern he kept mostly hidden. Flirted with waitresses, left comments on old friends' daughters' Facebooks, stuff that made her uncomfortable, but nothing she could prove was serious. And now it was all making sense. But here's where things get worse, way worse, because later that night, while I was still at my mom, my phone buzzed. Unknown number, no caller ID. I let it ring once, then it buzzed again, then a text. "We need to talk. I know you've been watching us. Don't make this messy, then it has to be." No name, just that. I showed it to Matt and my mom. Matt wanted to reply right away. My mom said don't engage. I saved the number, reversed searched it, and guess what? It's a burner, registered to an untraceable prepaid. But here's the kicker. I texted it back from another number, pretending to be a wrong contact. The person responded with, "Nice try, Sean. Sean is my middle name. Jessica's the only one who ever used it to tease me." So yeah, that text was from her. She knows I know, and she's trying to stay ahead of it. Now I'm thinking, how long was this planned? Did my dad vanish to be with her intentionally? Was it coordinated? Or worse, did she encourage him to leave? This wasn't some wild rebound. This was a blueprint, a slow, secret build, and I was just the guy paying rent while they laid the foundation. After that text, I went dark. No responses, no reaction, no showing my hand, because I realized something. If Jessica was already reaching out, that meant she was nervous. Nervous people slip up, and I was done being the guy who just reacts. I wanted to be the guy with a plan, so I called in a favor. A friend of mine, Jake, works in private investigation, mostly insurance stuff, cheaters, fake injuries, that kind of thing. He owed me one from years back when I helped him move on 4 hours notice after his landlord threatened to sue. I figured if anyone could dig up hard answers, it was him. Jake took the job without hesitation. "This your dad? Like the guy who vanished?" "Yeah," I said. Turns out he didn't vanish. He just downgraded. I sent Jake the address of the house I'd followed them to, plus a screenshot of the text Jessica sent me. I told him to start wherever he thought best. I didn't want footage. I wanted facts. I needed something I could use, not for revenge. Meanwhile, I stayed quiet until 3 days later. That's when Jake called me. "Get a pen," he said. I grabbed a notebook, heart pounding. He walked me through it fast. Jessica and my dad had been renting that house together under her name, but paying cash through a P.O. box every month, utilities in her maiden name, internet through a secondary account she had never listed during our marriage. They were ghosting the system badly. It was messy, not even clever, just hidden in plain sight. Then he dropped the real bomb. They've been using an alias, Jake said. Your dad's going by Rick Jensen now. And get this, he's listed as Jessica's fiancé on an emergency contact form at her new job. I nearly dropped the phone. Fiancé. Couldn't breathe. That word hit me harder than any photo ever could. That meant she wasn't just sleeping with him. She was planning a life with him. She was going to marry the man who faked his disappearance from his family and used to criticize her for not separating whites and colors in the laundry. The same man who missed my wedding because he had the flu and couldn't drive. Now he was planning to be her groom. I asked Jake if he could dig deeper. I wanted emails, messages, paper trail. He said it would take time, but he'd get it. While I waited, I made a decision. I drove to the house. I parked in the exact same spot as before, 3 houses down under a streetlight that hadn't worked in years. I watched the house for an hour. Lights came on in the kitchen, then the porch, then the front door opened. Jessica stepped out onto the porch in slippers and a hoodie. She looked right at my truck, like she knew. She walked halfway down the path, then stopped, crossed her arm. I cracked the window slightly. She didn't say anything, just stared. And then, from inside the house, a voice called out. His voice. Rick, Jess, you coming back in? I felt the heat rise to my face. My fingers curled on the steering wheel. She turned her head toward the house, then back toward me. Her expression changed, softer, almost pitying. Then she went back inside. Didn't run, didn't hide, just walked, like she didn't care anymore if I saw it. That was the part that burned the most, because even if she wanted to pretend like our marriage was dead, like it meant nothing, this wasn't just about me anymore. This was about my dad, my family, and she had taken all of it, quietly, casually, like it was some upgrade package she applied for. So I did what any emotionally unstable, half-sane man would do. I called my uncle, my dad's younger brother, Doug. Doug and my dad had been close once, until Rick borrowed $14,000 from him for a business and never paid it back. That was 15 years ago. They hadn't spoken since. I figured if anyone would be straight with me, it'd be Doug. He picked up on the second ring. Took you long enough, he said. I figured I'd be getting this call one day. That alone told me he knew something. What do you mean? Doug sighed. Your dad called me 2 months ago. First time in over a decade. Said he needed to clear the air. I asked what they talked about. Doug hesitated. Said he met someone younger. Said he was in love. Told me he'd finally found someone who made him feel seen. That was his phrase, seen. Like the whole world ignored him until her. I said, did he say her name? No, Doug replied. But he said she was connected to the past. That's all. At the time, I thought he meant some old girlfriend. Now I think, yeah, I muttered. Now we both know. Doug paused, then added. He didn't sound guilty. He sounded proud, like he was getting back at the world for something. That checked out. My dad never took blame for anything. Missed bill? Blamed the bank. Got fired? Blamed bad management. He always had a reason it wasn't his fault. So maybe this whole twisted situation wasn't a detour. Maybe it was his plan. A selfish, half-baked middle finger to the world that didn't revolve around him. That night, I started going through old email. Ones Jessica and I had exchanged, especially the final few months before the split. I found one, dated 4 weeks before our divorce. It was a short one. She'd written, we're going to be okay. I have someone to talk to now. At the time, I thought she meant a therapist. She'd been struggling with anxiety. That's what she told me. Now I realize that someone was him, my father, the man who raised me on honesty matters most. That man was now sitting in a rental house with my ex-wife, planning a wedding and collecting fake names like it was a game. But the worst part, the next morning, I got a call from Jake again. He sounded shaken. Hey, he said, I wasn't going to tell you this until I confirmed it. But what? I asked. The house, he said, it's in foreclosure. That froze me. They're broke. I asked. Not just broke. Behind on everything. They've got eviction notices, car payments late, no health insurance, no saving. I didn't know what to say, cause suddenly, it didn't feel like betrayal anymore. Felt like desperation. And if there's one thing I know about my dad, it's that desperate people don't just sit and wait. They take. And now I'm wondering, what do they want from me? Because if I know Jessica, and I do, she doesn't play the long game for free. She's not done yet. And that silence, that pity look on the porch. I went to the house. Yes, I knocked on the door. And yes, I finally came face to face with the two people who flipped my life upside down like it was some kind of casual weekend project. But I didn't go in hot. I didn't yell. I didn't swing. That would have given them power, like I was still reacting to them. Instead, I walked up to the house at 9:15 a.m. on a Saturday, clutching a manila envelope full of evidence Jake had given me. Screenshots, timestamped messages, all the Venmo transactions, and a few photos from their not-so-secret life. And I knocked. Jessica opened the door. She looked like she hadn't slept. Hair tied up sloppily, oversized hoodie, socks instead of shoes. But her face was calm, like she'd prepared for this moment. Like this was a meeting, not a reckoning. Behind her, I heard a voice. You don't have to do this, Jess, Rick said. That voice. My dad. The guy who taught me how to ride a bike and then left me spinning on a wheel of lies for 2 years. I didn't step inside. Rick, I said coldly. Couldn't call him dad. I didn't want to give him that word anymore. We're doing this now. Jessica opened the door wider, motioning toward the kitchen table. Fine. You came all this way. Let's talk. The place was small, not dirty, but cramped. Lived in. There were 2 empty pizza boxes on the counter and a pile of open bills under a ceramic fruit bowl. A picture of them on a beach sat crooked on a dusty shelf. They looked like a couple. A real couple. Jessica sat across from me. Rick leaned against the counter, arms crossed like he was observing some petty office conflict. Not a family betrayal. I dropped the envelope on the table. Before either of you talks, know this. I know everything. The money, the alias, the house, the job form. I've got every receipt, so don't insult me with denial. They said nothing. You disappeared, I said, turning to Rick. You let Mom think you were dead. You let me carry that. For years. He finally spoke. I didn't ask you to carry anything. Oh, I'm sorry, I snapped. My mistake. You just left and let us pick up the pieces. Jessica cut in. He was miserable, Sean. I turned to her slowly. And you were what, his therapist? She didn't flinch. You have no idea what your mom put him through. What you put him through. I laughed cold and sharp. You're blaming me? You're serious right now. He was already gone before we even talked, she said. I didn't steal him. You never had him. Rick added, this wasn't about you. It never was. That was it. The moment I realized I wasn't going to get an apology or anything remotely human. It wasn't 2 broken people finding solace. It was convenience. Rick left because it was easier than being held accountable. Jessica ran to him because she couldn't be alone. They filled each other's gaps and thought that made it love. You know what? I said quietly. I came here hoping to understand. But now, I'm just glad I'm not part of this garbage heap anymore. Jessica said, then why are you here? I pulled out one last paper from the envelope and slid it across the table. Eviction notice. You're 3 weeks from losing this house. I own the property management firm's parent company now. You didn't even know that, did you? Rick blinked. Jessica leaned forward, eyes narrowing. You're bluffing. Try me, I said. You won't get kicked out tomorrow. But unless you've got 8 grand lying around, this place goes back on the market by next month. Jessica's face cracked just a little. Why would you do that? Why not? I replied. You took everything you could from me. Now I'm just returning the favor. But legally. Rick stepped forward then, and for a second I saw a flicker of the man I used to call Dad. Don't punish her for this, he said. You want to be mad at someone, be mad at me. I am, I said, standing. But she's the one who texted me from a burner phone pretending to care. She made her bed. Jessica stood too. I don't need your help. We don't need anything from you. Good, I said, turning toward the door. Because you're not getting it. I walked out without looking back. I didn't feel better. I didn't feel victorious. Just done. But here's the part one haven't told anyone yet. Not even Matt. Because 2 days later, I got another call from Jake. And what he told me changes everything. He said he found bank transactions from 2 years ago, just before my dad disappeared. Large withdrawals, multiple, over 10 grand, all pulled from an account Jessica had opened during our marriage. It was joint, but I never saw it. She'd set it up using her middle name, and the last withdrawal was made the day Rick vanished, in a town near the state line. Meaning, this wasn't just a spontaneous connection. It was planned. They'd been talking while I was married to her, possibly even before he left. They planned to run away together, and now I'm asking myself something that's making me physically sick to even type. Was she ever even really mine? Or was I just the placeholder until Rick was ready? It's been 5 days since I walked out of that house. 5 days since I told them they had 3 weeks to vacate. 5 days since I thought I had the whole story. Turns out, I didn't, because the biggest betrayal was still waiting. Let me walk you through what happened next. The morning after Jake told me about the secret account Jessica had used to fund Rick's disappearance, I decided it was time to talk to the one person I'd avoided through all of this. My mother. She deserved the truth, the whole truth. Not just that Rick had been found, not just that he was alive, but that her ex-husband and her former daughter-in-law had been siphoning money and scheming behind her back. So I drove up to her place, a quiet little rental she shares with her sister about an hour away. I brought copies of the records Jake gave me and printed screenshots. I was ready to lay it out clean and simple, but I didn't even make it past the kitchen because she was already waiting. With him, Jake, my investigator. I froze in the doorway. They were sitting at the kitchen table. Coffee cups, laptop. My mother looked tired but not surprised. Jake looked at me like he'd been caught breaking into his own car. I didn't say anything, just stared at them, waiting. My mom spoke first. Sit down, she said quietly. There's something you need to hear. I sat. She took a deep breath. I knew, she said. I blinked. Knew. What? That your father wasn't missing. I couldn't respond. Couldn't even move. I didn't know where he was, or that he was with her, she said, her voice shaking. But I knew he wasn't dead. I knew he'd run. I just didn't want you to hate him, so I let you believe the story. I finally found my voice. You let me think he was dead? She nodded. Yes. Jake stepped in then. Sean, your mom hired me. Before you did. I turned to him. What? She called me 6 months ago, Jake said. Said she wanted to find Rick. Quietly. For closure. She told me everything, my mom added. Everything you'd said after the divorce. She thought it might all be connected. And she was right. I leaned back in my chair, dizzy. So, you've known? This whole time? No, Jake said quickly. Not the whole time. I only confirmed they were together 2 weeks before you called me. And when you hired me, I didn't know how to handle it. So I kept digging. I didn't tell either of you. I wanted the truth to play out. My mom looked away. I'm sorry. I thought protecting you meant hiding things. I was quiet for a long time. Then I asked the one question I hadn't asked until now. Why her? I whispered. Why Jessica? Of all people. Jake looked at my mom. She didn't answer. So he did. You know that account Jessica opened under her middle name? The one that funded Rick's disappearing act? Yeah, I said. There was another name tied to that account, Jake Jake said. Only on the original paperwork, not the transactions, just on the setup. I stared at him, waiting. He slid a printed document across the table. There at the bottom, in small print under secondary authorized contact, was a name. Not Rick's, not Jessica's, my mom's. I looked at her. What is this? She looked ashamed. Broken. I opened that account with her, she whispered. Before she married you. Silence. You, what? She choked on the words. Jessica came to me after she started dating you. She said Rick had been texting her. Flirting. Inappropriate stuff. She said she didn't know what to do. I couldn't breathe. She asked if I thought Rick would ever actually do something. My mom continued. And I told her yes, because I knew he was weak and selfish. I told her if she ever felt unsafe to come to me, I'd help her. Jake looked at me solemnly. Your mom and Jessica opened that account as a safety net to get her out if she needed it. My brain was spinning. But how did Rick get access? My mom whispered because I gave it to him. Silence. I didn't know they were together, she said. But years ago, before he disappeared, he came to me begging for money. Said he needed to start over. Said he was going to go out west. I was so tired of him. I gave him the account info. Told him to take what he needed and never come back. Jake added he took more than she expected. He cleaned it out. Then ghosted everyone. I stared at my mother, realizing the truth. She had set the fuse. She didn't know it would explode the way it did, but she lit it. She funded his escape. Gave him the tools, the account, the access, the opportunity. And Jessica? She had been the bait all along. My mom stood slowly. I was trying to do the right thing, she said. I didn't know they were involved. I thought I was protecting her from him. And you from both of them. I stood too. You lied to me. I did, she said. And I regret it every single day. I walked out. I didn't say goodbye. Didn't yell. Didn't slam the door. I just left. I haven't spoken to either of them since. Rick and Jessica have vacated the house. Jake confirmed it. They didn't leave a note. Just vanished. Again, the same way it started. I don't know where they went. I don't really care. And honestly, I'm not mad anymore. I'm not going to chase ghosts. Not going to decode every lie. That's enough.